So I wrote this in December of 2008 when I was 21 years old and going to Stony Brook University. In the winter of 2008, while walking to class, I noticed this short, good-looking girl. And it turns out we happened to be in the same Sociology gender class. Clearly she noticed me too because she turned around, looked me right in the eye, and smiled. She was trying to start a conversation. Obviously I was caught off guard and panicked, and I didn't know what to do. My heart started racing, I freaked out, I turned into a ghost. I did not even acknowledge she existed, then I sat on the opposite side of the room. Basically, I brutally rejected her, but I wanted to talk. Over the next few weeks, I kept thinking about this interaction. I had the perfect opportunity and completely threw it away. So I wanted to get her attention before the semester was over. Since I didn't have the guts to walk up to her and say hello, I had to think of a creative way to get her attention. How could I get her to recognize me? Some people suggested that I sit next to her. In class, sit next to her. Others suggested I offer her chewing gum. The teacher mentioned an optional extra credit oral report, and I thought this was the golden opportunity I've been waiting for. When I got up in front of the room, I'd be addressing the whole class, and she would see me as the funny, charismatic, competent, shy boy I was. My paper was on gender in the media, and I seriously thought there was no way this could go wrong. I was the second person scheduled to present my project. So, there was one person before me. Even before I went up, I had butterflies in my stomach and wanted to get the presentation over with quickly. So I was anxiously chewing my fingernails, and I began to watch the first guy, anticipating my report. He was this cocky kid that seemed like he might be a homosexual. Not that there's anything wrong with that. His report was supposed to be 5 minutes, but he went over the 5-minute mark. Then he went over the 10-minute mark. The entire time I was sweating, waiting to go up. I kept thinking, is he going to wrap this up? Well, he hijacked the class for almost the entire lecture, and then finally the professor had to tap him on the shoulder and say, "Your time is up." He was all annoyed by this and wanted to go on and on. They almost had to drag him away from the mic. Normally I would find a flamboyant kid hijacking a class funny, but not on this day, because now it was my turn to go up and do my presentation. The hijacking threw me off my game. My name was Cold, and I lost control of my body. I was like a zombie walking to my execution, and then I proceeded to make a complete fool of myself. It was a big 200-person lecture hall, and there were tons of people present. I struggled to get the mic on, and I noticed everybody was glaring at me. This made me panic, I was nervous, and I began shaking. I knew I had to start somehow, so I said, "Testing 1, testing 2, testing 3. I said that as a joke, and it got dead silence. No one laughed. Finally, I loaded my PowerPoint presentation. My presentation had begun. The slides I made a few minutes before class, they were full of typos, and it was projected on the big screen for all to see. I started moving my hands a lot, and began to read my index cards in a very quirky manner. I would not look up at the class. My slideshow went along with my report, and I began talking about how advertisements are everywhere, and they're unavoidable. I wanted my slide related to advertisements to pop up, instead big text that said macho men, and a large picture of Pierce Brosnan as James Bond was projected too soon. This made people in the class chuckle because it was so random. At this point, I noticed many people in the class were smiling, looking at me, and I knew I had to get off this slide. So I moved on to the next one. I was saying how, as a society, we idolize big, muscular action heroes. Then I projected a half-naked picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger flexing, which made more people in the class chuckle. People were chuckling again. This was not the reaction I wanted. I wanted to be taken seriously. Panicking, I started mumbling and repeating the phrase, macho men, over and over again. I wanted to run off the stage and out of the room in the worst way, but I decided that would look really bad, so I continued. Regrouping, I got the project back on track by talking about violence. I said we look up to James Bond and don't see anything wrong with his acts of violence. Then I said when he uses a gun to kill someone, it's seen as noble, but violence is not noble. It seemed like my project was finally going in the right direction, so I clicked to my next slide titled Violence. Well, under violence, there was under the violence header, there was a large picture of a pistol. I could hear people in the class mumbling, talking, and whispering. I thought the picture was appropriate, but I guess it wasn't the best idea and must have offended and bothered some people. It got them just talking and mumbling. Maybe it was too close to Virginia Tech, or maybe it was inappropriate, but I didn't mean for it to go over so poorly. Obviously, I clicked off this slide. I didn't handle the awkward situation well. I began to look down, freeze up, sweat, choke up. The chatter got me even more uncomfortable than I already was. The violence slide was near the end of my very quick and poorly done presentation. I knew I only had 3 slides left, and to me there were very few positive moments. I thought I wasn't going to get a good grade, so I said to the class at the end, "Wow, this is a train wreck." I even managed to raise my eyes and started chuckling. Some were smiling, some were laughing, others were cringing, the girl had a smile on her face, and I think she was embarrassed for me. Finally, my odd burst of confidence was over, and I began panicking again, so I rushed through my last few slides, then I began apologizing to the entire class. I said, "I'm sorry for this report." I rushed off the stage and out of the room. I got a loud applause, and I mean a really loud applause. I think it was a sympathy applause because my presentation wasn't good, but it was quirky. I grabbed my book bag, I left the class in a hurry. I was beyond humiliated. I actually left my jump drive, my USB drive, behind in the computer, but I decided to cut my losses and not go back. I ate a slice of pizza, all depressed, in the school food court, and began to write. There were only 2 classes left, and one of them was the final, so I didn't have to show my face there much longer. Needless to say, my idea didn't impress the girl. She didn't talk to me. On the positive side of things, I actually got a good grade on the project.